Hi guys, so this time we're going to be working on the ignition for the 08S. Here's the stator plate with some of the old parts on it, and we will pop the parts off, and as they come off we'll test them and we'll talk about them. Okay, so this is what they call the stator plate. It's essentially just what everything mounts to. So we'll start stripping it off, and as and when we strip it off we'll talk about it. So the first one is already loose. This is the short circuit wire. This one, maybe it's OEM, I'm not certain. It's a solid core wire, so it might just be dependent on what style switch there was on this model. But I'm going to change it for a multi-strand wire. They're a bit more flexible, they just tend to be a little bit more tolerant of movement. So that's gone, we'll replace that. Then let's take the points off. Now these points, they're not terrible, and of course if you just want to get the saw back up and running, you could put a little bit of abrasive paper in there or use a points file, clean that up and you'll be just fine. Sorry, I wish I had a short screwdriver, it wouldn't be right up in front of the camera. We need to keep this screw. It should be a little, oh, the washer's fallen off. A little washer there. So that's the points. These connect to the condenser. Now this little screw here, or this little nut, comes with new condensers. So we're going to undo that one, and we're going to undo the primary attachment to the ignition coil. So that, and that are going to go into the box to give back to him. Oh gosh, they were tight. That's the ignition coil. It hasn't got the HT lead on there at the moment. That's where the HT lead goes. Newer models, they're actually molded in there, which is a shame. Means that they're not serviceable, but that's fine. We'll give that a clean up as well, and then we will talk about how to test that one. So we'll put that one to one side, that's fine. And that's how you remove the capacitor. And now the stator plate is free. The first thing, be really careful with capacitors. Don't touch the top and the side at the same time, because you will get a shock. The amount of times I've shot myself with capacitors. So the first thing we want to do is discharge them. Where are my needle nose pliers? Oh, they're over here. So we want to ground out basically this top electrode and this side, or this top threaded portion of the side. So place it down, hold it there for a few seconds. So multimeter, take these two ends off. We're going to go red. We're going to turn it to capacitance, which is this one. And we're in nanofarads. So this is going to read 150 to 200 nanofarads rather than 0.15 to 0.2. So we're going to connect these together. So the red can go on the top. And then we're going to hold the bottom. And this is the reading we want to double check. Ooh, somewhere, and you can have about 20% deviation. So we are absolutely spot on. That's perfect. The next thing we want to double check is whether this capacitor will take a charge, hold a charge, and discharge fully. So we're going to essentially charge this capacitor up now. So clip, and you'll watch this will start to run up, and eventually it will get to a point where it will say OL, or open loop. Okay, so we'll disconnect. This time we're going to go on to volts. We want DC, so we're going to select, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to connect the top probe, don't hold the side, there. And now we're going to watch this. It will give us a number, and then it will start to drain very quickly. Watch this. 2, 100, 60, 40, 30. We want to make sure it goes right down to 0. If it stops at 5 or so, that's not good. Slowing down slightly. It's okay. But you see, it's not really going all the way. It should be at 0 already. It's not really where it should be. That's one of the reasons why we're going to replace it. So it should run to 0. Let me show you on another capacitor. So we'll just put this to one side. Brand new capacitor here. And you'll see the difference. Now watch this. 200, 100, 80, 60, 40, 30, 20, 60, 8, 7, 6, see how quick it's already shot right down to the bottom, and it will basically drain completely out. That's what you should get with a good capacitor. This one, not so good. It wasn't draining all the way down. We're pretty much completely out there. Depending on how I hold it, yeah, we're done. So that's how a capacitor should act. But let's continue with this one. So we've done the charge, and it took a charge. We've drained it, and it drained, but not really how it should. And now what we're going to do is we're going to charge it, we're going to discharge it part of the way, we're then going to disconnect the leads, and we're then going to reconnect it to see if it can hold a charge before discharging. Let's call it 1. You have to be quite quick because it happens quick. You got to be quick. So we were around about the 100 roughly there. Now watch, we'll probably be slightly above the 100 when we reconnect them. Watch. You see that went just up a tiny bit above, dropped. That was about 30 when I pulled it off. Wait a few seconds, should be about 30. Yeah, we're there. And then it'll probably stop again. You see it slowed right down now. It should essentially immediately drain to 0, like the other one did. It'll probably work, but we're not going to use it. So that is how you test whether the rating is correct, test that it can hold a charge, it can discharge, it can get a charge, it can discharge, and it can also hold a charge. So yeah, we would probably be okay, but we're not going to use it. It's not ideal, and it's not within spec. So there we go. So let's pop this one into the stator plate. Very simple. You've just seen me take one out, so I'm not going to bother doing it on camera. So we know this capacitor is good. We know it's making good ground because I used the stator plate rather than the side, so that's making good ground there. The next thing we're going to do is test the ignition coil. Now, if you're working with an electronic ignition coil or electronic ignition system, then it's not applicable. You can actually get results. However, this is more for testing points ignition, okay? We're going to connect, it doesn't matter which wire we use, we're going to connect one up here, and we're going to touch this to a point where we are fairly certain there's no corrosion, but there's also no, none of that kind of adhesive covering, and we're looking for, on the multimeter, around about 1.5 ohms of resistance, basically nothing. So 1.5 to 2 is absolutely within spec, and that's perfect. Now to test the secondary winding, we want to have one on the primary, and one on the barb or the spike for the HT. This should read around about 5 to 6 kilo ohms, 5 to 6,000 ohms. Pop that in there, make sure you've got a good connection. Leave that for a second. 5.43 kilo ohms. And the other thing to check is that it's consistent. This is all connected and it's not changing at all. 5.42 is excellent. If it was going 5.4, 4.4, 3.4, and it was jumping around, we don't want that. If it's flickering slightly, it's not an issue. So we're going to place this one back onto here, and I'll just put those 2 screws back in. What we'll do next is we'll attach the kill wire. Now I bought a new one here. You can see it's a multi-strand wire, and these are generally a better solution. So we will go like so. We're going to go to here. This is actually rather sharp. You know what I might do? I'm going to clean that out with a file. I don't want this to be rubbing. When the saw's vibrating, you just don't want that issue. So bear with me, I'll just get a file and I'll quickly clean that out. That's nice and smooth now. Just a bit of reassurance. 30 seconds now is better than stripping the whole engine back trying to find a no spark issue. So the last thing we have is points. These are going to be installed next. I'm just going to take a bit of acetone and wipe this area here. And now we're going to simply place these down. Need our screw. And then we have this wire. Now this is actually a bit long. It's very unnecessary. I am slightly tempted to even just crimp this down. Excessive wires in these areas, it's just not a good thing. Take that wire end off. Okay. Now that's nice and secure. So yeah, now I can just put that down there, pop this on. The last thing we're going to do is just put in a new felt wiper pad or felt wiper block. And this just rests against the lobe, in this case on the flywheel, and it will keep the flywheel oiled. There we go. Make sure that's back. Yep, that's nice and secure. It'll take a minute for that to absorb, but it's a bit of a heavier oil. So now what we need to do is pop this onto our chainsaw. We need to put a little bit of grease on here. Now, points, they come with a little pack of grease. That's great. And then we're going to put just a little bit of grease on this wiper block of the points. So in this instance, we're going to put a little hole with the, should be a little point in the middle of the wires just to start it off. So we've made a little hole there. We're now going to thread this on here. Okay. What we'll just do quickly here, let's strip the wire off and we'll just check with the multimeter that we've got the same reading that we had earlier. So this should be 5.4 something kilo ohms. 5.51, so perfect. We know that that connection now is very good. I hope that's a good view for you. So that's there, give that a snug down, give that a bit of a snug down and through. Okay, now what we're going to do is put the flywheel on and we are going to basically set the points gap first. Now, as I said, we need the flywheel on because it's got the eccentric little step on there, and we're going to bring it to top dead center. We're going to firstly set the points and then we're going to adjust the timing. Okay, so I've tried to get you into good position. It is really tricky. You're looking, or where I want you to look is in that points gap there. Now, you're not going to be able to see from your angle. It's even hard enough from my angle, but with a torch, essentially I'm looking for where those points are open their most. And that generally is top dead center. But I am going to go in within this gap, and that is, I've just checked, that's top dead center right there. So they've obviously aligned it with that intention. So we're at top dead center. We need to place, and this is really not a good flywheel to do it on. In fact, even the still manual suggests having a spare flywheel, like anyone has one of those, that has the 3 gaps. It's like one there, and one there. It's so easy to work on those. We haven't got that, so we're going to work with what we've got. I'm actually going to take my feeler gauge out of here, of this little kit, this little selection, because it's just easier rather than struggling with a whole feeler gauge set. You just haven't got that same tactile feel in that regard. Tuning screwdriver, this is one of the long ones I was telling you about earlier. It's delightful for this sort of job. Be careful of those magnets. So it's closed now that I've loosened it. I'm going to place, you can see how fiddly this gets and why a thin screwdriver is very useful. Place that in there. Now we're going to, oh, I dropped you. Sorry guys, told you there's not much space to work here. You'll have to just do that for now. So now what we're going to do is make sure that we need another screwdriver. It gets a bit silly, doesn't it? Let's be honest. We've got pressure this way. We're now going to cinch this one up. But we've got very light drag there, and that's the 0.35, so that's exactly where we want it. Nice. Okay, so now what we need to do is set up a timing wheel. Now, I like to use the timing wheel, so I'm going to show you how to do it. And this is the perfect way to adjust the timing. However, note one thing. You can just set it up with the timing marks. It's not so accurate. There's timing marks here and there's timing marks on the stator plate. There's a little V notch. We're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it the best way possible. Okay, so just off camera, because it's a little bit easy, my elbows are in the way. I've set up my degree wheel. I've just got a little drill chuck, can you see? And I've put it, for these sorts of engines, it's better to put it onto the PTO side rather than the flywheel side, because the flywheel has to come off. It's really an annoying system that the flywheel has to come off and on, but it's not the end of the world. So it's on this side. So what we need to do is pop a piston stop here into the, and we can rotate it with this side, which is nice. Pop it into the piston in a set position, like so. 80, where are we? 56, 70, 80, 90. So we're going to go from top to the center, 85. If I put a bit of firm pressure on there. Yeah, we're bang on 85. So let's go back. See if we're bang on 85. So we're not, we need to go this way. Okay, where are we there? We are 81. If we just make sure that we're all the way against that piston stop, we're 81 there. And we're 74 there. Find the difference. So now we're 79. Go back this way. So we need to have a little look. We're 77 there. And if I put pressure on the piston stop, we're 77. Yep. We go back this side. And this side, we're now 77 as well. So that is set now so that the piston's position is set with this degree wheel. 77 there. 77 there. Delightful. So that's that side of things done. We're timed correctly. Now we're going to spin round. I really don't want to be on that. It's very uneven. Can we get enough height out of that? Oh, yes, we can. Look at that. So now what we're going to do is find the short circuit wire and we're going to pull it out. Okay, so what we'll do is now, I'll just go get the multimeter. We're going to connect one side of the multimeter to the points and the other side to ground. So if I touch these together, there'll be a bleep. That's just indicating that we have got continuity there. It just means that I don't have to look at it. The number isn't important, we know that's fine. So now we'll ground this out to a good ground. That means the points are closed. So we're waiting for the bleep to stop. That's when they open. So let's rotate it in the direction of the engine's turning. Oh, okay. So we're at about, now what I'm doing is, as soon as it stops, I stop. We're at 22 degrees. We need 26. So very simple, we're going to pull this flywheel off. We're going to adjust the position of the stator plate, and that's going to give us our timing. So all I'll do is just disconnect that one, and I'm just going to gently twist this off like that. That gently pops off. Really easy to do. And that's why I keep this tool on there. So what we need to do is turn this plate so that we get, we want a bit more advanced. We're a bit too retarded at the moment. A little loosen, a little loosen, a bit more loosen. Let's try that. Let's see if that gives us what we're looking for. Bit of snugness there, bit of snugness there. You're ready to go crazy tight. Ta-da! Like it. Take that back out. Very gentle tap. Set ourselves up again. Doesn't matter which one goes where on here. Where's that little wire? There it is. So we're gonna go to about there. This should bleep. And now we're going to go and see where it stops. Ah, there we go. Now we're better. Oh, we're 1 degree out. Okay, so going to go there. We're now going to go back. It's, oh look, honestly, it's between the two. I'm happy with that. That is the saw timed. That's points set. And I've actually already off camera, because when I first put the flywheel on, it was rubbing. So I literally just took a feeler gauge, got the 0.2 millimeter, and I just slipped it in one side between the ignition coil and the magnets. Same on the other side, cinched them down so we know that's good too. So all I'll do now, I'll take the flywheel off. We'll wire this back up, flywheel back on, and we'll check the spark. Hey, look at that. we have a bit of wire exposed. I've just seen it. Look. We have a little bit of wire exposed. Now, if that touches ground, you're not going to get a signal. So what I'm going to do is nip this wire off. We're going to add a new connector, but we're going to put a little bit of insulation sleeve on there. And that's actually not a bad thing because it means that I can shorten all of this and I'm not bending and twisting this at all. So we'll snip that off. Delightful. So that's how simple it is. It's worth doing. That's literally 2 or 3 minutes, and it just ensures that we're not going to be grounding out anywhere and we're not going to have any issues. That's a nice solid connection. Don't be afraid to give it a bit of a tug. You want to make sure that it's not going to come off. Come here. No, we're nice and snug on there. That's great. There we go. That's nice and snug. None of the wires are coming outside of the flywheel area. Everything's correctly set, correctly timed. Now, the last stage, and this is important, we need to clean the points. Because they can oftentimes have oil on them from the factory just to stop them corroding, right? So we want to make sure that we're removing any of that. And then once this is all put back together, we're going to torque the flywheel nut down. And that is the ignition side of things done. That one came out that way. Taper is there, that's there. Very good. It's done. We have a new recoil starter. It's nice and flush. Make sure it is flush. If it sits out at all, it will rub against the starter recoil. You don't want that. There we go. Okay. So rope can now come out. Top down view now. So hopefully this is going to be a bit clearer. Let's see if we can twist that slightly. Impact. Look at that. Still sparking like crazy. Very interesting. Actually, on the camera, it doesn't pick up every single spark. It stops sparking for a few seconds, but actually in real life, when I'm watching this, the spark is constant. So don't worry about that. It's not an intermittent spark. The only thing we need to double check now is this wire. This is the kill wire that's connected to the capacitor. We need to check that this is now no longer going to spark when that's creating ground. No spark at all. Take that away. Should return to spark. And we are. That's wonderful. Bright blue spark. Again, it looks a little bit orange on the camera, but it is a bright blue spark. Last thing I'm going to do, because this is cracked a few times, it's probably fine, but we're going to re-torque it. It'll only take me a second, and then I'll bring you back. All right, guys. Catch you soon. Bye.